asked around and someone told me that you had a pretty insane spreadsheet where you were keeping track of all your research. Can you talk to
Yeah.
us about that?
Yes, I would love to talk about my spreadsheet, Jasmine. Thank you. Yeah, I remember saying to my wife at one point, like when I was writing the book, when she was like, I think this book sounds like it could be like commercial, like it could do well, like it's like it gets. I was like, I just wanted to do well enough that like other journalists will ask me like how I did it, like how I did this.
This is what
But
I'm here
yeah,
for. Tell us
yeah,
about the
thank
spreadsheet.
you, thank you. It doesn't matter if anyone's watching.
But what's it
Yeah.
like to like have this huge trove of information and basically be like the huge seeing eye of everyone's experiences and like able to collate everyone together?
It definitely felt that way. I think it feels that way more now that I've written the book, because you don't know what I didn't know, like I was
Mm.
able to write around things I didn't know, but that was a real phenomenon, and I write about it in the book a little bit, like, because it was also just, you could see everything, like you could see, like, risks that people were taking that they didn't understand they were taking, like there's dramatic irony, or you could see the future, you could see, this guy is super in charge and everyone likes him and he's doing great work, but in a month he's going to die in a plane crash, and and so yeah, I talk about that in the book, because like 1/3 of the book is the fact that this community theater was doing Our Town in Anchorage at the time, and I was having these weird feelings of, and also meeting, a 90-year-old Alaskan guy who I've now spent months reading about as a 30-year-old, or 40-year-old Alaskan guy. And then to meet him and be like, oh my God, like you're an old man, that's like, to see where those stories end was also really eerie. And so when I finally read Our Town, there's this stage manager character in the play who is basically in that same position. Somehow, Thornton Mooallem never really explains it, but somehow he knows what's going to happen to all the characters. So as he's standing on stage and there's scenes happening around him, he'll just say like, see that paper boy, like he's going to go to war in a couple of years and die, and that kind of started dictating how I wrote the book, like the beginning of the book. The reason why I say like this book's called This Is Chances, that's just how Our Town starts. But I was able to do that in the book too, like basically flash ahead and show you just really quickly like where these people wound up. Not everyone. I mean, it's odd, but it felt like that's the right way to do that story. I know the New York Times Book Review did not care for that element of the.
Yeah, we don't read the New York Times in this family.
Yeah,
That's okay.
no, I
It's
mean,
fake news.
I'm just putting it out there, but yeah, I mean, it felt strange to do it, because it felt strange to have that knowledge, but I just felt like there's something so painful about seeing seeing life on that scale, right? That on the one hand, it's like this super intimate 3 days that you're looking at minute by minute, but you have all this knowledge of the, the magnitude of like what's going to happen to these people and where do they come from and where are they going. And of course, they're all going to the same place. They're all going to die, and most of them are dead. And I knew how it happened. And that's like, it's just a bizarre way to experience it. Like we don't have that in regular life.
Right. I mean, should we talk about you as the stage manager of this book? Let's talk about Our Town.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I think it starts to sound like we're on acid or something, but yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Like, how do you know I'm not on acid?
I don't
This is a
know.
very special occasion, Jon Mooallem. Let's I mean, we can just start with the opening quote of the book, but I thought it was really interesting that I didn't realize for a while that your setup of the opening of the book itself is the setup of Our Town. So let's just talk about Our Town in general.
Yeah.
For people who don't know.
Yeah. I mean, did you know, what was your knowledge of the play? I'm curious. Like, I didn't know anything about it, really.
I didn't know anything about it, and I went to performing arts high school, so I felt very ashamed.
Yeah.
So thank you for introducing it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I put it in the end notes that basically all I knew about it was from like an episode of Growing Pains. I remember it as a kid, like Kirk Cameron was in Our Town. But yeah, I mean, I always thought it was this play that, like, my impression of it was it's this very hokey, kind of simple-minded play, about like Americana and like American life in a small town.
Mm.
And then I started reading and I was like, this is bizarre. Like, this is so experimental and strange, like that you have this character on stage. I mean, the story is about, just like the book, it's about 3 days in a small town. so the action is all very mundane and nothing that dramatic really happens. But you have all these weird touches, like this stage manager who's just walking on and off stage, talking to the audience, telling you the future. So yeah, so that, and I think that in the play, you know, the themes of the play are very much like the themes of the story of the earthquake. Like there's, I mean, without going on and on about like the plot of the play, like it's basically about people's inability to appreciate daily life, you know, and that we go through these lives and we don't realize how beautiful they are and how fragile they are until we can step outside them somehow. And you know, play ends with this young woman who's died, and her sort of soul is looking back at ordinary life, and just it's so painful for her to realize that she wasted, you know, her time, that she didn't look her mother in the eye, she didn't, you know, value what was there. And that was what happened with the earthquake. You know, it sort of threw people in Anchorage into this other realm, this like, it's sort of like the realm we're living in now, where we're all inside or at least adjacent to a disaster, and you just have this different lens on things. And in some sense things simplify, right? Like what you value. And that was the spirit in Anchorage. Like there was this spirit of like, oh my God, like we, you know, we have this special place, and we can't take it for granted. And now we have a chance, you know, to go back into it and try it again.